I was terrified of the zombies for a long time. And if you can't go caving, I just strip mine and then die to an Enderman, and that was my game, you know? Because if I had been streaming, I don't know if I would have applied to be a tester. The games that we did well in were team games, which is where like your vibes really shine through. During the interview, unbeknownst to me, Blockwars announced that I was going to be running their social media and gave me staff everywhere.
You played any InsideMC X Blockwars Origins 10 All-Stars? I think that's the order. You played any InsideMC X Blockwars Origins? Alright lads, welcome back to InsideMC, the part of the podcast where I sit down with an amazing guest every single week. And this week's guest is pretty cool. I think it's the first guest in a while which I don't have any research notes on, because I just know them so well. We're practically best friends now. I'm joined with Melizsa.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, I said both your names, but like, do you know like some people say
that's
like...
crazy.
I've had this discussion on the podcast before. Do you know how like, was that like Shane Firebreath man? I said Melizsa, but this time it's actually both your name instead of like your name and an online name.
It's crazy.
Yes, true. Yeah, I know this because we're best friends.
Yeah, definitely. I know who you are.
What a
Security?
great start to the podcast. Security, while you're sitting down talking to me, you're voluntarily doing this. You could just like turn off your PC.
Wait, I can leave? Okay, let me just
Just like
no,
Discord
thank you
sound
for
effects.
inviting me.
Before we get into more amazing talks about you today, and you skip over, you're a podcast listener as well, aren't you? You listen to some of those days.
Yes, I do. I like just putting it on in the background when I'm like doing parkour or traveling to uni. I like the podcast.
You skip over the intros, so you don't actually know how the intros work.
Okay, you didn't need to call me out. We just had this talk. You didn't need to.
I can always cut
I do
out.
skip. It's fine. I don't have the attention span for the intro. I'm sorry.
Well, to be fair, right, no, I can't imagine many people who come on the podcast are listeners, or they just don't tell me about it. So the fact that you're an open listener, you get brownie points, which is fine.
Okay.
It's fine that you skip over the intro because you're an actual listener.
Phew. Okay, saved it.
But what we normally do is, I always like to give the intro for you to let us know who you are. Who are you? What do you do? And if you have a fun fact, either about yourself or in general, it's your choice.
Oh, this is really silly because I remember listening to the Avondale podcast and you went, yeah, I ask everyone for a fun fact. So in my head, I was like, okay, I need to think of a fun fact. And immediately I forgot to think of a fun fact. But anyways, so yeah, hi, I'm Mel. So like the name I go by is Melizsa, but really everyone calls me Mel. So I just like to go by Mel. I'm 22 years old. And yeah, you might know me through maybe the content that I make, or alternatively because I do work for Noxcrew. And I guess a fun fact about me is I have 3 kidneys.
Huh?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't improvise, okay?
You actually?
Yes, I do. This is true.
Why?
It's not functional, the third one, because it's just the kidney. It's not the whole works around it, but it just kind of floats around in my body.
Why'd you have that?
I didn't really get to talk to the kidney, so I have no idea.
I guess like a more of a specific question here then, not to get into the absolute depths of it, but I'm curious. Have you ever thought about having it removed?
It doesn't affect me in any way. I learned I had it when I was like 4 because I was like getting some sort of like test for a way different reason, and apparently it's like underdeveloped. So I just imagine it's like a tiny thing somewhere in my body. No idea where it is, but it's not bothering me. So why do anything about it, you know?
So if you ever get like bored, you can just have like a little conversation with it.
Yeah, just like you have conversations with your kidneys.
I mean, you don't know that. I could when I'm bored. I don't have conversations with my kidneys, but I do sometimes speak to myself. Like, I'm bored at work and like on a Friday when it's dead quiet and I don't know what else to do, so I just stand there like, hi, what would you like today? Like, I like serve myself if I'm buying something. It's great.
That makes sense. I feel like everyone kind of does that sometimes.
So if you have to be some like next level kind of bored though. I mean, to be fair, streaming without a consistent chat is kind of like talking to yourself.
True.
And my streams,
you gotta have that. Sorry, yeah.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, you kind of have to have that little bit of crazy to be able to get through the low viewer numbers before you get to a semi-active chat.
Exactly, which I mean, I've been doing for the last like, well, I actually used to have an active chat and then I lost it, but it's fine because I enjoy streaming. I've been addicted. I don't know if I'll still be addicted to it by the time this podcast comes out, because this comes out next Friday, but right now I'm hooked on a card store game, and if I am still hooked on it, my store is going to be massive, so we will see. So Mel,
Yes.
Why? And it's a little bit different asking you this one because it's normally I like to ask people why this is their name. But for you, I'm gonna reword it slightly because you get special treatment. Why did you choose to use your IRL name online? Why did you not think of I guess an online alias?
Well, there's like a silly story behind this. So Melissa is my name, but then Melissa with the Z at the start is like my in-game name. So it's slightly different. But basically, when I was like 11 and I got Minecraft, right, I had to pick a name. So this is the first name that I ever picked. I've gone through different names, but I've always circled back to Melissa. When I had to pick the name, there was this like book series in the Netherlands. I don't know if it exists anywhere else, but it was like a high school survival guide or something. But the whole thing in the book was if you replace the S with a Z, it makes you cool.
Oh,
so
no.
I was like, okay, I'll just replace an S with a Z. And that's how I got my name. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that it's very similar to my name because it's kind of nice for branding, you know?
So instead of having for instance Insane Orbits is double Z because it's cool. You have Melizsa with a Z because it's cool. Same way people have XX Sniper Gamer because the double X is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
We're under that category, I know.
It's just quote unquote cool. No, but obviously I don't think it's all that cool and awesome anymore. I'm not 11 anymore, but it is still nice to have a clean name. I don't have any numbers in my name. It's pretty discernible what the name is supposed to be. So I'm happy with it.
Have you ever had problems with branding though? For instance, searching on Melizsa sometimes, even when I'm trying to tag you on Twitter about something, I think it was during the guest announcement, I just couldn't remember for the life of me which came first instead of the S. Have you ever had that problem with others?
Oh, yeah. So when I first joined Block Wars, the email that they gave me was with the S first and then the Z. I think it's because people think of Philza, which is Phil's name, and then ZA at the end. So people think Melizsa, which is not true. And also when I first got accepted into Noxcrew, I got a message from Stefan saying Melissa, but with the wrong way around. So it happens a lot, but it's just something I have to live with. I like to, whenever I talk to people, I like to out loud say the first S is a Z, just so it really sticks in their mind.
I think it's a good name. I mean, Insane Orbits, I've always kind of said it. I wish I could rebrand just down to Orbits. I think Orbits would be really, really nice. Insane Orbits is alright, but it feels a bit too long now. InsideMC is so short, it's so quick, it's so cutesy, it's so demure, you know? Whereas Insane Orbits is just, ugh.
Very TikTok brain of you. But I see what you mean. Orbits is nice, short, and clean. Insane Orbits is, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with it. You don't have an X somewhere in the name. You don't have anything an underscore interrupting it. You don't have numbers. So in that regard, it's good. But it's even better to just have orbits.
Yeah, exactly. I like the double Z though. I don't know about it. I always want the double Z. When someone does orbits with one Z, it just feels weird to look at. But double Z feels so nice. I don't know how to explain it, but it does. So.
It just scratches that itch. Yeah.
Yeah, Melissa is a good name. I mean, other than the middle part, which isn't a bad thing per se, but other than the Z and the S being a bit confusing, I think you've hit the nail on the head with a good online name.
Thank you.
What about your skin then? I mean, I think it's a very obvious answer. To me, at least, it looks a lot like you.
That's true.
From the one time I saw you IRL when you was escorting me to my seat. That's the only
Do you
time.
remember what I looked like there? Because I don't remember anything. It's all like a haze because it was so stressful.
You look the exact same as you do in that one picture that we were just talking about with the whole Noxcrew. So
I guess that's true.
I guess.
Yeah, my Minecraft skin is just based off of me. I had a particular design for quite a long time, which is similar to this one, but it was more muted colors. I had it made in 2020. And then for one of the MCC tests that I played, Sarah Sahara, I don't know if you know her. She's an amazing artist. She works for Block Force. But she made a team skin for our MCC test team, and I really loved it. So I was like, Sarah, can you make a new skin for me? I want it similar to the old one, just with your style, more vibrant and a slightly different outfit. And I'm so happy with this skin. Sometimes I switch around a bit, but I think I'll be coming back to this skin for a long time.
So very aqua.
Yeah, I love aqua.
Isn't it, kind of linking back to something you said earlier, isn't it a bit crazy that you started playing Minecraft 9 years ago when you were 11, now you're 22? The maths hasn't added up there at all, has it? It's when you were 13, if you was 9 years, now you're 22. That's kind
Yeah,
of crazy.
I was gonna say
I corrected myself very quickly, don't worry.
I got it very early in 2013, so it would have been 11 years ago.
Oh, it was 11 years ago. Sorry, I thought you said 9 years ago. Oh, still. So you would have been, 11.
I was 11, yeah.
Jeez, time is
so
flying.
crazy to me, because I used to just play the demo, and now I'm here.
And on a Minecraft podcast all these years later.
Yeah.
So I always have to slide it in there that you are on a podcast. Always, every single time.
I am on the podcast.
The joke is getting stale now for me, but the thing is, the new guests haven't heard it, so it's like brand new every single time I say it. Isn't it crazy? You went from working for Block Wars, joining Noxcrew, and now you're all the way on a Minecraft podcast.
Wow, I really made it now.
Really hit your heights.
I swear the last podcast I listened to had the exact same conversation.
Oh yeah, no, like pretty much every single one of them does. There's also like the part where I have to slide in that I'm a barista. That's common as well. I could have perfectly slid it in when I said about serving myself, but I'm actually kind of getting bored of being a barista. I'm thinking of looking elsewhere, and I've done it for like 2 years now. It's getting on my nerves. I kind of want to change the scenery.
I get you.
But yeah, no, moving on. Enough about me being a barista, and I brought up everything I have to on the podcast now, so I don't know what else to say about myself.
Yeah, is there any more boxes we need to check before we move on?
Nah, I think we're good. So what got you into the like content, or like I guess this kind of community in the first place? I mean, obviously you started playing Minecraft all those years ago. And if you wanna add into this why you started playing Minecraft, that's completely fine. But also, like, you used to be a streamer back in 2020, which was like a 2020 COVID time? Or no?
Yeah, it was COVID time.
So I guess why did you get into Minecraft, and then moving into why did you get into the content creation thing? Might as well just ask both at the same time here.
Yeah, it's a long story, so I'm gonna try and just hit the Cliff Notes version.
Feel free.
Okay, so obviously it started when I was 11. In primary school, all the boys were obsessed with Minecraft, so obviously I had to try it out. And I did. I bought the game, and I got bored of it pretty quickly. I was terrified of the zombies for a long time. And if you can't go caving, I just strip mine and then die to an enderman, and that was my game, you know? I got Pocket Edition so that I could build my secret base under a waterfall. But again, like pretty quickly, it kind of fizzled out. Then a couple years later, a friend of mine, I was like super close friends with her, and she got me to play Minecraft on her Xbox. Still very scared of the zombies, but this is getting me back into Minecraft, right? Then I want to say I was 14 or 15. I had like a big falling out with this best friend, and I was completely alone and quite depressed. So of course, what do? I turn to Minecraft.
Yes.
I start to the one logical thing, right? You're depressed, you want to play Minecraft. But I started playing I played hide and seek on the Hive. Rest in peace, Hive.
We're still alive
Java.
on Bedrock Edition, yeah. Okay, I was about to say.
Bedrock isn't real, I'm sorry.
We'll get into that later, all things considered, but yeah.
Of course. But yeah, no, so I was a big hide and seek sweat. Like, when I say hide and seek sweat, I was a proper sweat, like 8 hours a day, just playing hide and seek, memorizing every single corner of every single map. In hindsight, I don't know what I was doing with my life, just playing hide and seek, but it's great. And it really got me into Minecraft minigames as a whole as I started exploring different games on the server as well. I think everyone kind of experienced the dip, 2018, 2019 time-ish. No one was really playing. And then I discovered this small YouTuber called Dream. And I was like, wow, I love this guy's content. I love the manhunts. And I just completely fell in love with this content. I'm not speaking on him as a person. That's beside the point. Back then, none of that was like thing. I loved his content, right? And when he got into MCC, I was like, this is freaking awesome. It's an incredible event because I'd seen like Minecraft Monday, and compared to Minecraft Monday, MCC is like insane. The quality, the games, and I see Sands of Time. Now, if you know me, I love Sands of Time. And this is where my love for Sands of Time started, because I took one look at that game and I went, this is awesome. So I started to watch all the different VODs, trying to figure out the ideal way to play. I started mapping out the dungeon. And then I want to say August 2020. they did tester applications. So I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to be a tester. Thank you very much. So I applied. I wrote them all these things like, I love Sands of Time so much. And there's nothing I would love more than to play this game. I even rebuilt the dungeon. And I love MCC so much. And I feel like it could help you improve the event. I'm just there to like have fun. And I got rejected. Heart shattered, dreams shattered. But even like I think like a month later, they announced MC10 viewer teams. So I got together as like team to make it into the viewer teams. And this matters. I know it's like, oh, but you got rejected as a tester, so you're gonna be a tester later, right? But no. So I got this team together of people for the viewer event. And I found this girl who said she was a video editor. And we kind of like got together and we found 2 other people. I'd never met her before in my life because I didn't have any friends in the community. But we started talking and hanging out and it was awesome. Her name is Catnap. And that day we made the video and we started streaming. So that's when I did, I think, maybe my second ever stream. But my first proper stream was streaming the MCC parkour, talking to Kat. And it was just, we were just like, quote unquote, training for MCC. Obviously, we didn't make it in. But through that experience, I started streaming. I hit affiliate within like a week. And just her and I, we were like kind of lifting each other's streams. And we were streaming together all the time. And having that person to motivate you is really nice. And also just completely beside the point, I love Kat. And she's still like one of my best friends since 2020. So yeah, Kat is amazing. But that is where my content creation journey kind of began. We got rejected for viewer teams, but that didn't stop me from streaming because my streams were doing way better than I was expecting to be possible. And I was like, wait, actually, I have this opportunity to start streaming more. I was at that time taking a gap year from school, so I had nothing else. So I was like, okay, I'll start streaming. And I really like threw myself into it. I did like lots of like scary streams for October, and in November I learned about all advancement speedrunning. Now mind you, I only knew about speedrunning as a concept through some of the Manhunt videos, and when I learned about all advancements, I was like, okay, the time right now, because it's 2020, the times were really bad. Like hours and hours, 20 plus hours. The times are really bad. I can never, like, I'm not good enough to get a speedrun world record in any percent. But maybe I can beat them in all advancements. So I'll just learn all advancements. I don't know what got into my head thinking I could just learn all advancements, even though I'd never even killed the dragon before. But I decided that that's what I was going to do. So I started learning all of these things. I started learning how to beat the dragon. I started learning how to beat the Wither, Elder Guardian, how to do like Uneasy Alliance, which at the time was still building a huge portal and like fishing rodding a Gaston. All these like crazy things. And I streamed all of it. But I did end up doing all advancements, but I wasn't very good at it. But I did end up sticking with normal speedrunning. And I really enjoyed normal speedrunning. And I was like, actually, this is just fun to do, even if I never get a record. So I started, getting better and better and better PBs. And this is kind of what I streamed over that period, 6 months, early 2021. I was just doing speedrun streams and more speedrun streams. And then at the end of 2021, I ended up getting a job. And I did not know how to combine my job with content creation. I just completely fell out of it. I just stopped and I kept saying, oh, I'll stream again, and then never did. And it was very unfortunate because I was actually like building quite a good audience. Like I was getting close to partner and stuff, and I really regret giving that up. But it is what it is. And it did end up somehow leading me back on a good path, because if I had been streaming, I don't know if I would have applied to be a tester. But this is around the time where tester applications open again. And this time, me and Kat, who I applied viewer teams with, applied together to be testers. And I didn't know this when we applied, but she wrote in her application about me that we were best friends and that we both really wanted to get in. And I later learned that if she had not written that, we wouldn't have made it in, or at least I wouldn't have made it in. But because they saw that they had a group of 2 best friends, they went, okay, we'll let them in. And that's how I got into testing for MCC, which was just like the biggest day of my life, because I remember sitting in that office job that I was doing and just to myself repeating, oh my God, I get to play Sands of Time. I get to play Sands of Time. That was my whole day.
Priorities.
No, but actually, I around that time, it became a rule that testers wouldn't be able to get into MCC at all. That rule has now changed, but at the time, they announced that
Oh,
was
it's
going
changed
to be the
again now.
case. It's now like a year, if I remember.
What I heard from other people was that after MCC Rising, they put out like an announcement. Like originally, you could leave testing and then apply to Rising, but then after Rising happened, they said like if you ever want to play an MCC, you have to leave now and like testing now. But then it's changed again now, where it can be a year.
Yes, that is the situation that I'm talking about. So
Got you.
I got accepted for testing, but then they announced Rising. So I left testing until Rising results were announced, and then I returned.
Got you.
But after that, they did indeed announce you have to pick either you stay in testing or you can never get into MCC in any form, whether that's Rising or in the normal event. And at that time, I just said to myself, I love the game so much that I would give anything to play them. And if that means I don't get to ever like share that joy with people outside of testing, then so be it. But I would hate to give up being able to play the games. And that sounds really sappy, but it's true, because being able to play those games is just so awesome to me, and it still is. It still has that magic even 3 years later. So yeah, and that's how I ended up there. I can continue the story with how I ended up with Noxcrew. Do we want to do the whole?
Oh wait, no, we'll wait on that. We'll wait on that. No, I have stuff to say.
Yes, go for it.
If I can actually remember any of it. Oh my god, I had a whole thing in my head that I wanted to reply with, and I just couldn't. Oh, that's it.
I know it's a big story.
Yeah, a bit back to content creation, just to loop it around a little bit. Obviously, because I work as well, I relate very much to the balance in work and content creation. It can be really, really hard, and you have to have you have to take a lot of sacrifices to make it work. By sacrifices, I mean sleep and free time, which to me it doesn't really bother. There's not really anything I do in my free time, but like it's what's something that's crazy to me, and it's like a little fun story about myself. So back in COVID days, obviously I streamed Bedrock. I was like getting close to like 60 average viewers pretty much streaming, because of every times are different, and it was absolutely amazing, and I was really enjoying streaming and stuff like that. And for like a little period, there was this like one person who was helping me in quotation marks grow my content and branch my horizons. So one day I ended up raiding BitSquid. BitSquid owner of Biome Battle, just in case like anyone doesn't know who they are. They were also in the event I hosted yesterday from recording. We'll talk about it later on. But so I actually ended up raiding them, and they're in like this Java community now, and I like friends with a lot of people. They've been friends with a lot of people I've known for years. Like I know now, but they've been friends with them for years. What's crazy to me is like I raided them, joined their Discord, my partner joined their Discord, and like that was kind of it. But then when I joined this community last year, like recently into it, I found out that BitSquid was into it, and everyone knew them. And it was just weird for me to like, for instance, when you said about you streaming COVID, it never happened, but there was a strong possibility that like in another universe I could have ended up raiding you. So we could have had this interaction about two or 3 years ago, and then linked back around into this. And then I guess more on top of that as well, as you mentioned about how like you kind of regret not sticking with content creation and stuff. But then also what you said, and I kind of want to agree with, is like not in every scenario, but I'm a strong believer in most scenarios of everything happens for a reason. Like part of me really strongly believes that had you have carried on content creation and never stuck it out with like what you were doing and then would you be still in the community today? Would you have like a full-time job elsewhere? Would you have given up content creation? Would you be better off? Maybe. It's like so many different ways to look at it, but you seem happy right now with everything, so I think it was the best possible story.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in everything happens for a reason, but I do believe in turning negatives around into a positive, and I really feel like I thankfully was able to convert that negative into something that I'm even happier with. I love where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so there you go. I know, like I said, not in every scenario, but I'm a pretty strong believer in it. I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's like everyone has a story, and it just depends on how you kind of utilize it and what you do. Hence, not in every single scenario. But I mean, like with content creation and stuff like that. Then obviously you mentioned how it kind of went into testing, and now you do kind of do a bit of content creation now, but not like a major amount. You stream every now and then. You are slowly getting into the wider event scene as well, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah. For the past years, plural now, I've been recording my MCC tests, but obviously that's not content that gets to be shared around, just within testing. So I've been doing a lot with figuring out how to improve quality and how to record properly, audio balancing, but I'd never shared anything that I did with the public until kind of recently, when I was I kind of refound that passion for content creation. And I'm still looking at how I can combine it more with what I'm doing with, university, and then also doing my work at Noxcrew, seeing how I can combine everything into a routine that works for me. But it is something that I want to do more and that I'm getting more into again.
MCC Bedrock. Right, this is the part of the podcast where things get a little bit messy, because do we carry on talking about your content, or do we talk about Noxcrew? Oh god. I think we
take a side route.
Oh?
Yeah.
What's the side route?
I'm just saying, I don't think we continue with like my timeline. I think we talk a little bit about, the MCC event and stuff, and then eventually we can circle back to how I actually became part of Noxcrew.
Let's talk about your more recent YouTube videos then. Hold up, AJX ain't clicked off your channel. Not very fun. Let me really find it. Melizsa, Z first. Bang, see, look at that.
Never forget.
So, like, for the last 2 months, you've been uploading a decent amount on the channel. You did your Blissful Championship VOD, Blissful 16 full medium parkour, no falls, all big flex. But one of your biggest videos and a few, like, your main content for like a very quick period, which has already been 2 months ago. Oh my goodness. Stands time optimal route got 60k views because people saw that as a tutorial. That's definitely I'm not saying that's the only reason I got loads of views. I'm not trying to downplay your video, but it very much gives tutorial vibes based on the title and the video itself. How I destroyed Sands Time MCC got 4.1k, and I cheated a Sands Time world record, got 17k. So you're
to be clear, I did not actually cheat a Sense of Time run. I want to make that clear to the listeners.
It's clickbait.
I did clickbait. I'm sorry.
God. I don't know how I can like look you the same. I might actually have to just stop the podcast here.
Oh, okay. I understand. Don't want to force anything.
But no, in all seriousness, like, you've kind of been picking up content a little bit more seriously. Not so much, like you haven't uploaded in the last month, but there's been a decent like bit.
Yeah, 100%. So when that Sands of Time video popped off, I mean, I immediately kind of started getting this exact question that was also in my head, which is, so what are you going to do after the Bedrock event ends in 2 weeks? And that was also like a question in my head. So I actually immediately after the event ended. So, okay, I'm actually going to go a second back. The event all happened while I wasn't at home. I was staying with my partner in England, and I have a setup there, but it's not as good as my home setup. So a lot of the quality in the video is lower than I'd like it to be. Which is kind of frustrating, but you got to live with it, I did a lot of audio editing to try and get all the background noises out. But once I got home, I was like, yes, I have my own setup again. I can show everyone the quality I have. So I immediately started recording another video, and I got it all recorded, and I was so excited to get started on it. And then I had I'll just say it. My grandfather passed away the day that I'd seen him, and it was on his birthday. And that was really difficult on me. All my other grandparents have already passed, so he was the last one remaining, and it really hit me hard. And then combining that with still having to keep up with my work, starting uni again, it all just became so overwhelming. So this video that I put so much effort in kind of got shelved. And now that I am doing a bit better, it's really difficult to get back into that. So that motivation kind of was put on hold, and now I'm really working on finding that again. But YouTube is 100% something I want to go for, like really properly. It is difficult. Video editing is not easy, especially for me. I want to make good quality content and to prove to people I can make better stuff than I've made before. But it is difficult. And I'm not going to lie, part of it is also just I need to push myself to do it, and I haven't. I feel like maybe you not so much because you are very diligent in the work that you do, but I feel like a lot of people might relate in you want to do something, but also it's difficult to get started or get back into something that you were doing.
Well, I'm curious. What do you mean I'm diligent? I know you're not saying it in a bad sense, but I'm curious though.
Oh no, it is a very good thing. In fact, it means you do your work and you really care about it. Like with InsideMC, you are always on top of things. You asked me for this podcast months ago. You got like all the announcements, graphics ready for like weeks ago, all ahead of time, and you've scheduled everything perfectly. And that is something that I struggle with a lot. So I really respect you for it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I love InsideMC. It's fucking my pride and joy. And now that midweek has stopped, like as much as I loved midweek, I can kind of focus on, which I haven't yet because I've been kind of enjoying just having a little break these few weeks. But I'm going to start getting into working on more specific content. So looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. And you, the listeners, should also be looking forward to that because there are going to be some fire videos.
That's very exciting. Is it more? Is it going to be more of like the videos that you've done of event players ranking themselves, or like skin artist thoughts, that sort of thing?
Well, by the time this podcast comes out, there would have been a video last Wednesday from recording this. Sorry, last Wednesday from this being uploaded, so in 2 days from recording this, and there'll be a video coming out Wednesday this week, as long as they both get edited by the people editing them. So I won't say too much. I don't want to spoil too much, but you'll see.
Okay, no spoilers.
got some fun stuff planned, so we shall see. Not entirely. They're gonna still involve other creators for the most part. There is a commentary one that I'm working on, but yeah, got some cool stuff planned. One of your more recent videos, and the most recent video, is an application to something. What's this?
Oh, what is that?
Mayhem application. What the heck is that?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've heard about it. MC Mayhem is one of the big events in the event space right now, and they were hosting a viewer event.
Oh.
So of course, me and my best friends were all MCC testers, or I'm technically not a tester anymore, but we'll get to that. But we are all in testing, so we cannot apply to Rising, but we can apply to Mayhem's Euro event. So when we saw that announcement, immediately we were like sharing it in our group chat, and we're like, oh my god, we need to try and get into this. So it's called Mayhem Ignite. I can't recall if I already said that, but we made this application video kind of based on, like, it has a lot of small references about us. So it has different builds that are meant to represent us in like small little ways, and I think even in the description I explained what all of them mean. But yeah, and thankfully somehow, thank you Orbit, we made it in.
But I mean, I was part of I'm not even going to take full credit, because I was only part of it really. It was so around about the time of Mayhem Ignite, I went on holiday, and I was just dealing with like wrapping midweek MC up, and I was dealing with like something else. My life was pretty hectic that month, with the whole going on holiday, as teams were meant to be being contacted, I said, turn around to AJ and I said, would you like to also become player manager with Shalom's permission? I'd already asked Shalom. I said to Shalom, can I offer player manager to AJ? I wouldn't go behind his back because he's the owner. I said, can I offer? Shalom said yes. I said to AJ, would you be interested in becoming player manager? Don't know why I asked him, knew he'd say yes, but for the point of it, I had to. He says yes to becoming it, and then him and Pers went through the applications, watched a few of the, like, when I say a few of the videos, they watched all of the videos, of course. I'm really explaining the story poorly. That just shows how like little impact I had on it. They watched all the videos, went through all the applications, all the job applications, blah blah blah, and then they chose who they wanted in. But I obviously had my say on who I wanted and who I didn't feel like having in. Like, you know, there's always that side of the not wanting in. I won't go into that anymore, but, you know, take that as you will. Same as every single application ever. But one of the teams that from the get-go, all three of us were very happy with and wanted in was you guys. Because I knew you, I knew Twitty, I met Twitty at the after party at MCC. I knew you just from chatting to you in voice calls and stuff like that. And it wasn't biased from knowing like, oh, what Orbits likes them, so they got in. Well, that's the idea really, but it wasn't biased from knowing you, because you know you were the only teams that we were really close with, or like at least I guess I was, even though we don't really talk to the others too much. But
yeah,
see, once again,
I don't really know AJX or Shalom, and I remember like the times that we've even like lightly skimmed on the topic, you've always said, no, you know, I'm not gonna tell you anything, you just need to make a good video, and you know, we'll see what comes of it. So yeah,
like every single time like we talked about Mayhem, and you weren't ever digging for information, but I just said like, look, make a video, make it good, make it fun and stuff. And like obviously, you know, we gave the offer for people to submit their Rising applications, but I think making a specific Mayhem application, having a team that we knew you guys had been best friends for years, like you know, I don't know how Rising works, and I don't know how they look into it, but kind of our main thing for Mayhem, for if we ever do a future one as well to keep in mind, is like, you know, we were looking for people who were very actively showing that they were a good team. I mean, obviously Poseidon was a little bit quiet, which was one of my negative things on the application, which isn't their fault. Like, I'm not saying it's negative for them to be quiet, I just mean like the mic quality just wasn't there, which obviously didn't affect anything because you guys still got in. But like when I looked at your application, it perfectly hit the known each other for years, clearly good friends, you know, get along well, can make jokes, make a good application video, and like, you know, that's what we looked for when getting people in. So when I like, there's a few people who made it into the event, or like were in the original drafts, who I kind of turned around. I don't know why I'm going on a big thing of how Mayhem Ignite worked. I got lost in it, but I'm going to carry on. on anyways. Why not? There's like a few people who kind of made it into the original draft teams, which I turned around and I had a say on. This is the main point. I had a say on people. Like I said, if I wanted them in or didn't want them in. But the final thing, like I confirmed that I thought everyone was okay, and it doesn't come down to me solely. Yes, I'm player manager, but I also like to give AJ, who is the new player manager, a say in it as well. And I also want to give Pers a say. But there were a few people who kind of made it into some of the draft teams who I turned around and said I'd rather not. Which I won't once again dwell on too much, but yeah, it could have been a whole lot different if I wasn't there, basically. But I think your team was always originally going to make it in. There you go. Long story short. Not short, but yeah. So I just went into a completely, like, I don't know, I my brain just went still and I just carried on yapping just then. What the heck just happened?
Yeah, no, I definitely, I mean, it's a bit self-centered, but I definitely think that, you know, you made the right decision in a sense, because at least in my opinion, like, we're a great friend group. We all vibe really well with each other.
It's a nice gift.
You said it, you know. But yeah, no, I think that we were a good fit. Apparently too strong, but I didn't think we were overpowered when we submitted.
I think you were. To be honest, like, we kind of went for like balancing, but you can't really tell how a completely new roster of people who've never played the event before are gonna do. And like it was also like I mean, one of my main things was let's look for people who don't really play in events. Like we had some, but one of my big things was like, and it feels like Rising did the same thing based on who they got in, which probably wasn't intentional, but I'm still saying like that's what it felt like. With me, I turned around and said, look, like there's like 4 or 5 players maybe who were originally on teams, and I turned around and went, but like they're in like every event ever. Like that shouldn't seclude them from Mayhem. So that's why some people were in. But at the same time, we also wanted to give people a new opportunity, and it's also kind of what I did with the InsideMC event.
Yeah, I remember when we just learned who all the teams were. This is going to sound really sweaty, but we made a spreadsheet and we went around to see how strong everyone was. Just out of curiosity, you know, it's not going to change how we play in any way. We're not a PvP team, so it's not like we're going to target someone anyway. But yeah, no, we could hardly find anyone. I think maybe we got a total of 6 or 7 people, excluding ourselves. We got their stats, and that was it, which is, I think, really good. Shows that a lot of people hadn't played the event before. Also, I do want to say, I don't think our team was overpowered. I think the reason that we did well is because we're friends. Because if you look at the games that we did like badly in, we did pretty bad in a lot of the PvP games. The games that we did well in were team games, which is where like your vibes really shine through. We did well in Bingo, we did well in Factory Frenzy, you know.
I'm gonna be so honest. I have no clue how the event worked. That entire Saturday, because I used it as a rest day, and I completely switched off from the entire internet. Like I made a tweet saying about it, and I went back and like brushed over some of the VODs so I could like know what happened. But that entire day during the event, I laid there in bed on my phone, watching TV. Like I wish I watched it. Like and that's why I went back and like watched a few of the different POVs of different games and stuff like that. Score wise, event wise, stuff like that. I was just completely out of it.
So you haven't seen my massive throw in Rapid Racers?
No, I have not seen your massive throw in Rapid Racers.
I was in first going into the final stretch. Sorry, spoilers for whoever wanted to watch it back. I fail a 3+1, and then at the very end, I somehow managed to fail the slime thing, and I get overtaken by both CGQ and Scotto.
Oh no.
I got third.
When are you making a video about it?
Well, actually, that is in the works.
Ooh,
just wait.
Can I get to see the
for this one,
photo?
Yeah, for this one I've hired an editor, so it's actually happening.
Oh, nice. I loved having you guys in. I loved all the teams, but you know, back to when you said about not being sweaty, I do want to add that you were not, which isn't a bad thing, non-stop asking questions. You guys were reviewing all the games. You made spreadsheets, everything. I'm sorry.
We were sweaty. I'm gonna be so real.
That's what made you overpowered, was the sweatiness of it all. Like you guys really went into depth, whereas like some of the other teams were 2 duos put together. I think every teams were really happy with their teams, and I think it was an amazing event all in all.
Yeah, from what I could see, everyone vibed really well. Both the teams that were made out of duos and just the squads. And also just everyone was really nice. Like we still, I mean, you know this, but listeners don't. We still have the Discord, and we don't talk as much, but everyone is so active, like sometimes shit posting or posting the things that they're doing. Just everyone was so nice, and I'm so glad that I got to meet everyone.
A lot of I guess my player management for Ignite was inspired by Rising. For instance, like I mean I think it was always going to happen, even if I wasn't there, but I was a big advocate for keeping the Discord alive. And I was just inspired by the fact that I know like Rising players from Rising 1 still have a Discord, to the point where you guys have actually combined all 3 Rising people into one Discord or something along those lines. So all of that kind of just like hearing all of that kind of inspired me to do what I did for Ignite. But for the impact that I had on Ignite anyway. Now Mayhem's on break. So
Yeah, I miss Mayhem. The games were really fun.
maybe one day. Who knows, you could become a tester or a testing manager for Mayhem. Speaking of, aren't you one for Noxcrew as well?
Yes, I am a testing manager
Look
for
at that
Noxcrew.
transition.
Look at that.
Carry
Amazing.
on the story. Let's get back into the storyline. Here we go. So last time we was on it, we talked about how you had no longer been a tester, I believe. Or like you're no longer a tester. Something like that.
Yeah, I just got into testing, according to the timeline. But yeah, so I got into testing, had a couple tests, and coincidentally, one of those tests I won was with the testing manager at the time, which meant that half a year later, when they went to look into who to get for internal testing, which is like testing, but those people get an NDA, so they get to see more secret stuff. So when they had to pick internal testers, I somehow made it onto the list. And I got into internal testing, which at the time was MCC Island alpha testing. So I got to see MCC Island before it was released with all the silly old hole-in-the-wall traps. But yeah, that just meant that I kind of got to have a little bit more of an insight. And also, it kind of transforms you into a little bit more of a trusted member of the community, which I guess helps. So when MCC Island was going to release, they asked us to apply for moderator because they were just trying to get people from the community to become moderators for Island. So I applied, and of course, I didn't make it in. The usual. I never make it in first try, it seems.
You went to Ignite first try?
That's true. You're right.
I've tried for Rising 3 times now, so don't worry.
Yeah, with my story, I always like to emphasize the parts where I got rejected because it just comes to show that no one is going to get stuff first try, and if you give up after your first rejection, you're never going to make it to where you want to be.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, I didn't originally make it into moderation, but I want to say, 9 months later, I had become friends at this point with Flamey and Dwitty, who were part of my Mayhem team, but at the time I'd just become friends with them, and they were both moderators. So at first I'd kind of given up on being a moderator, but I saw what they were doing, and I was like, this is actually really cool. So in May of 2023, I applied for 2 things at the same time, and I got accepted for them at the same time. So I applied for moderator, and I applied to be part of the Blockwars staff to do their social media. So for Blockwars, I had my interview and thankfully somehow got accepted. I have a little bit of experience before Blockwars in social media. So I got accepted there. I had a 2-week probationary period. And when I had my interview for moderator, during the interview, unbeknownst to me, Blockwars announced that I was going to be running their social media and gave me staff everywhere. So I'm in the middle of this interview and I get ping, 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 15 notifications on Twitter. And I'm just trying to answer like how I would punish a hacker, but my mind is going everywhere. That was a very chaotic experience, but somehow magically, maybe with the power of vouchers, I don't know, I made it into moderation as well. So that's kind of, I see that as the point where I really became part of the community because I started learning more about Blockwars, being involved there and getting a lot of experience. Because my position at Blockwars wasn't just managing social media, I also helped manage the video team, which I have no experience with video editing. So I had no idea what I was doing, but really what I was doing was more managerial. So I made sure that videos went out at the right time and that everyone had all the information that they needed. And simultaneously, I was getting more experience in moderating MCC Island. So when, again, another 9 months later, I've worked for Blockwars for quite a while now. It's a very cool job. I'm very glad I got to get that experience. But in February, the previous moderation manager leaves and there is an opening. So me and a couple of my friends, not the heisters, but within moderation, everyone is so close that you're all friends. So a couple of the other mods applied and we got to do interviews. And somehow, I guess I got to use my experience at Blockwars managing. And I got the job. I remember being so nervous for that interview because I remember when I first applied to testing and I got rejected. I I was just thinking about how it was my dream to be involved with MCC, and like I'm never gonna get to be involved at all. And then that day I got that email that I was gonna get to be involved, which I still have that email pinned to the top of my email list. So yeah, hold up, let's see. Yeah. Hey, Melissa, enjoyed our interview last week and thought you'd be a great fit. So would like to offer you the role of moderation team manager.
Aww.
I mean, you can hear like the smile in my voice. It's the most amazing thing. It works really well with my uni schedule. And obviously I'm extremely passionate about what I do. I love being part of Noxcrew. I love being part of the moderation team still because like I said, I see everyone as my friends. That was a really difficult part of getting the job, was the fact that all my friends then couldn't get the job. And that was really sad because I didn't feel like I was necessarily better than them. I just feel like I had a better interview, you know? But
So,
yeah.
how can I join Noxcrew then? Can I join Noxcrew?
Oh, you'd be surprised how often I get that question.
I would not be surprised.
A lot of people want to join Noxcrew, and really the answer is luck and determination. Like, don't give up at just rejection, but also you kind of need relevant experience. Like, Noxcrew isn't like many other places. Noxcrew is a company more than it is a group. If you want to work for Noxcrew, they're actually looking for people who are professionally doing this. A lot of the time, full-time doing this. So if you're like a student, that's probably not gonna align. Like, I'm very lucky with my job and who I am. Like, I am definitely an outlier in Noxcrew. I'm one of the few people, I think I might just be the only one who started as an MCC fan. No, everyone else is like a professional in their field, and I'm just like the lucky person who I guess has some managerial skills and who had experience moderating.
Well, you can climb the ladder like you did. Like, it is very much possible to just sort of, that means you have to have the time dedication to it. If you work and stuff, you can always find the time dedication. But I believe you can go from a tester like you did, then a moderator on a server, to then this and that, and then you can slowly climb the ladder. It's just a lot harder.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like YouTube, because on YouTube, if you're not going to put in the work, you're not going to make it. And if you do put in the work, there's a good chance that you'll make it, but there's also a good chance that it's just never going to go anywhere. And that's not your fault. That's not the fault of the dedication that you're putting in, that you're not doing enough, that you're not good enough. That just means that at that time, it's not the right time. And that's just unfortunate. Like, for me, if the moderation manager at the time had just stayed, I wouldn't be part of Noxcrew. I'd just be another moderator. So it's part luck and part skill. But for Noxcrew, most positions are professional positions more than like the sort of thing that you can climb up the ladder.
Just whatever you do, don't try and get the rank the same way I did. I was in an MCCI game and I asked one of the moderators if I can get Noxcrew rank, and I got a warning for it.
Yes,
so
asking for ranks is not allowed.
It's also not funny. It's really not funny. Just don't. I was just being goofy at the time. Which, I mean, I think it was harmless considering the server had already just opened and I was just trying to be silly goofy, but don't.
Yeah, that's why it's a warning, you know? Like, we understand that. Sometimes people are just being silly goofy, and that's why a lot of the punishments are based on warnings first.
Exactly. So, but yeah, don't just work, innit? I don't know, just work your way to it. It doesn't need to, like, be begging for it. And, like, in all sorts, just going out of your way saying, can I have Noxcrew rank to a member of Noxcrew it's never gonna work. It's not how that works. You perfectly explained it there. You've already perfectly explained it.
Yeah, I want to put a disclaimer out there. Never contact Noxcrew members or moderators either about your punishment or about joining Noxcrew, because you're not going to get anywhere. We have systems in place. Contacting us, like, privately, unless you just have a question. We're always happy to answer questions, but if you're trying to get something done, you're better off going through the official systems than trying to get it through DMs. But yeah, that's a side note.
Exactly. That's why I did it, just so you could do that disclaimer, and it's all professional.
Of course.
I had a question. For your work with Block Wars, then, we might as well touch on that a little bit then. How comes you ended up leaving? I think you brushed over it, but more for a timestamp here. Why did you end up leaving Block Wars?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my work at Block Wars, but there were some like things, for example, that would be a bit frustrating or time consuming. So, for example, the Origins announcements, they each require custom starting lines and then custom ending lines too. And they want them to be like wordplays on the team name. And while that's like fun the first 3 times you're doing it, it gets a little bit less fun when there's like an inside joke that you have to figure out, or you think of a line, but turns out that the team name was actually referring to something else, so you have to think of a new line. And it can be very frustrating and time consuming, on top of the fact that I was now a uni student and joining Noxcrew. So when I joined Noxcrew is when I made the decision, I want to make sure that I have enough time to dedicate to this new job, which is my absolute dream job. And I love Block Wars, and I'm really happy to still seeing them succeed. I still like love the staff members, but I think my place is in Noxcrew and giving Noxcrew all my energy.
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's a good way of saying it.
Thank you.
NCC's pretty cool. I touched on it earlier, but we first met kind of at MCC Twitch Rivals. I was very fortunate through Avondale to have what was meant to be reserved seating. It was sort of reserved seating. We got to sit right in front of the casters. I was happy. I love casting, so me and AJ were very happy. And my partner, actually. Me, AJ, and my partner all got the seats. And we sat around some really cool people like Scotto and Nomad, etc., etc. I actually posted the picture of all of us on Twitter, which was really cool. But our first interaction was you escorting us in, all flustered and just dealing with everything. I mentioned about how congratulations on becoming what the role you have now is testing manager slash head mod? No,
it's moderation manager and testing manager.
There we go.
Like
yes,
2 separate.
Just wanted to get
things,
the exact name right.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to how I got testing manager, but first this.
Well, I congratulated you on becoming Noxcrew specifically. That's it. I remember it now. So and then you escorted us to our seats, and then at the after party, I got to talk to Dwitty for a little bit, which is really cool. And then I'm looking at it now. You ended up messaging me on Twitter on the 2nd of July. I love the podcast. Keep it up. And then I said it was nice meeting you in person, even if brief. And you said next TwitchCon we will talk more. And then I said if any time before then hit me up. And now we talk. You've been on streams and stuff as well. So.
Yeah. It was kind of a funny story. Dwitty told me about when he met you.
Oh no, what did he say? I want to hear it.
So sorry, Dwitty, if you're listening to this, I'm about to expose you.
Well, I think I've already said it on the podcast before, but I'm curious to see what he said.
Yeah, so he was like at a bar, and because he was just trying to get a drink, but it was taking forever.
Yep.
So next to him was Cara Corvus, and like she was also waiting for the drink because this bartender just was not showing up.
Yeah, it was just one.
So they kind of like started a conversation, and then he told me that you walked up to them as well, and he called it. You started quote unquote networking, both of them.
Did I? Is that what he said?
That's what he said, but in a positive way. At least the way I saw it was that you're just like really social and really welcoming to people, and that's why I ended up messaging on Twitter, because I was like, oh, if this guy's like really open to talking to people, I love the podcast, I want to network him.
Bro, no way you called it networking. Oh my god. Is that all he said? Did he not mention the other thing?
Probably he did, but at this point, it's so long ago. I just remembered the reason why I messaged you on Twitter was because I was like, oh, this guy's actually like really chill then.
Okay, I'm exposing Twitty as well then. Screw it, I'm doing it, I don't care. I've invited you on the podcast, I'm exposing that as well. If you ever want to come and fight your case, you can come on the bloody podcast, alright, we can talk about it again.
Oh gosh, what is it? What am I about to hear?
So I walk up to the bar, alright, not networking, I just walk up and to buy a drink myself. Networking. Because I'd finished my beer. Anyways, so
yeah, I want to make clear, the networking was very lighthearted. It was not an insult at all.
I know. I mean, I can't really see how networking would be an insult anyways, because like it's just trying to get like reach new avenues and stuff like that. So I know it's not a bad thing. It's just I just find it so funny that that's the way. As for every single time I've said the story, I've just said like I went up for a chat. Like I went for a drink, saw them, I was like, oh, and they were talking. I said hi, and like they were talking, and then Cara was like, hi, and I think she asked what I do. So I said like InsideMC, something blah blah blah. And then she misheard me. I can't exactly remember. I said it on a previous podcast. But I was like, no, InsideMC, because obviously at this point I'd already had Cara on the podcast, and she's like, oh yeah, and then Dwayne turns around and goes, AJX.
Oh my gosh, no, I know this story.
And I was like, no, not AJX. I was like, no, actually, I didn't even go that. He went AJX and went the other one. I went, Orbis. I was like, yeah, hi. And then we was chatting. I was chatting to both of them. So I guess, yeah, Pie and Pie is kind of networking because I went up and I talked about like the podcast and stuff. But also like I was to Kara who like had come on, and then obviously Twitty, I didn't know who they were at the time. And then when they mentioned that and then actually me and Twitty had like a really, really good conversation. I won't get into it too much, but we stood there like Kara ended up going off and me and Twitty stood there having like a really good conversation about like Rasa Studios and about both of us and stuff. So it's actually really cool. So.
Yeah, hey, you can talk about that on his podcast. What the heck?
Well, I'm just bringing it up here because you mentioned it, so it's just funny. But
yeah, absolutely.
And then yeah, you messaged me then, which is I mean I guess it worked out him saying that then because like now we're both sitting on the podcast and we both talk a decent amount, so it's always fun.
Yeah, I just gained a friend.
A lot of I think people have realized in the past as well. Like my podcast is so different when I'm talking with someone who I like interact with on like a regular basis. Like it's so easy to tell. Like people will know even before I say the sentence that means you talk on a regular basis just based on how I'm doing the podcast. I'm a lot more like not like I act more upbeat, like not that I act more like uptight and professional on podcasts where I'm interviewing someone I've never interacted with, but also when I'm with someone I've always talked to, I lose the content voice a little bit. I don't have to explain it. Both are fine, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I get you. And it's also when it's a new person, you don't exactly know what humor they react well to, like where to draw the line. Versus me, you can like insult me and I'm just gonna laugh at it.
Well, like I knew I could bring up the Twitty conversation, you wouldn't mind. Like as it's only like a short segment. Yeah. Like whereas like talking about someone else on another podcast is always. I mean, for the most part, everyone's fine with it, but it's also the worry that they won't be. But I knew that you would be fine.
Yeah, this is kind of meta. We're talking about the podcast on the podcast.
Oh my goodness. Wait. Oh yeah. So I guess like to lead into it, then we mentioned there that you are the testing manager. How did that come to be?
I am. So this is a bit of a juicier story. So we got new testers just this winter around the time that I joined Noxcrew. And the testing manager at the time has a lot. I'm not going to name drop them because that feels mean, but like they have a lot of other responsibilities within Noxcrew. Like their job is very extensive. So naturally, making like teams for tests and running testing is not going to be their main priority because they have a lot of priorities, and it makes complete sense. But it did mean that we started having issues within testing. For example, balancing issues. If you're not properly tracking stats because, testing manager is busy doing this important thing to make sure MCC is actually working, then you can't properly balance the teams. And if you're not properly balancing the teams, then the people who are really good are going to be winning all the time, and the people who are really bad are going to be losing all the time, and it just feels really shit for them. So that was one of the issues, and there were a couple more issues, but basically at some point it came to a head, and I was just so frustrated that I messaged Joe Avondale. And everyone who knows Joe knows that he's like the guy to talk to,
We love Joe Avondale.
Exactly. Like he came onto the podcast, but he's always like very, hey, if you haven't listened to the Joe Avondale podcast yet, check it out. Link in the description. I don't know.
Got promoted in the MCC Discord earlier. Like what the heck?
True.
So cool.
Yeah, no, but one thing to know about Joe is that he will always take you seriously. He will be strict, but fair. So I wrote this whole thing out and I'm like, hey, this is in no way blaming like the people who are running it, but these things are not going well and we need a fix. We need something to change because this isn't right. And you are the person who has enough power to make that change. So that's why I messaged Joe. So yeah, I messaged Joe and he replied, okay, I see your concerns, hop in a call with me. So I hop in this call with him and we kind of start talking and I start outlining the things that I already wrote down for him, but I wanted to give like extra context, of course. And we kind of had like this discussion. So I start with my first point and pretty immediately he's very strict with me, like to an extent that I wasn't expecting. And I get a bit overwhelmed. I'm like, oh God, am I saying something wrong? Am I about to get told off? Because this is the first time that I'm stepping like outside of my comfort zone within Noxcrew and I don't want to lose my dream job. So I'm like, no, this is actually like a problem because this and this. And he goes, okay, yeah, but this. And he makes valid points, but still disagreed. But anyway, so I get more and more like wound up. So I'm like, no, like really? And I'm starting to going my next point. And at some point he just goes, do you want the job? And I'm like in the middle of my point and I'm taken aback and I'm like, what? I just take a moment to clock it because I just completely wasn't expecting it. I'm fairly new to Noxcrew. I had no reason to ask me. I was just asking for changes. I wasn't asking like to try and get the job. So I take a moment and I go, are you serious? And he goes, yeah. And I go, no, but like, are you actually serious? And he goes, yeah, like, do you want the job? And I go, Yes, I absolutely want the job. And that's somehow how I got the job. And the person who did it before me now has a lot more time to focus on their own priorities. So I do think that this really just worked out better for everyone. From what I've heard, at least, testing is now doing better. So yeah, I'm very glad that they gave me the opportunity. And I think this comes to show that Joe is really like a fair person, because the reason that he was being so harsh on me was just because he was testing me, to make sure that I was ready for the job and that I actually knew what I was doing, and I wasn't just complaining, but I actually knew how to handle things. And I guess I passed. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same with like I've experienced stuff in InsideMC and player manager and stuff. Like sometimes you have to stick with your guns and work with the people around you. So like with like this, you were showing that you have the potential to be the manager, because as much as you're saying your points, you're also working around what Joe was responding to. So instead of just full sending like this is problem, this is problem, this is problem, you actually had a proper discussion about it and like talked about it. Whereas like a lot of people not lack, but a lot of people would struggle with, and at that point, if they're in your position, would kind of back down and be like, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Oh yeah, I see where you're coming from. But you stuck to your guns and showed why you should be in that position, because you see this as a problem, you feel this is a problem, you have the good reasoning as to why this is a problem, that kind of idea. At least that's how I see it from, I guess, what I've experienced over the past year of being like player manager and obviously owning InsideMC. But
yeah, I like to think that it was my attitude that got me there.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have anything else you wanted to mention about MCC Noxcrew, or have we done a pretty good job of covering it all?
Yeah, I think that's it.
I guess the last thing we should get into then, before moving on to the Twitter questions, of course, if you don't have anything else after this point, we'll see. I'll give you the opportunity. Is yesterday, while I'm recording this, you played in the InsideMC X Block Wars Origins 10 All-Stars. I think that's the order. You played in the InsideMC X Block Wars Origins.
You got through it.
How was that?
It was awesome. Well, it was less nice, paying for a game just for it to get skipped. But,
I can refund
No, you're all
you if
good.
you like. Like, I mean, I can do
No.
the donations
I don't need a refund for charity. Thank you.
I know. I knew you'd say no. That's why I suggested it. So I'm making you look like an even better person. Look at that, so.
Oh my gosh, look at me. I'm such a good person. No, but I had a really fun team. Thank you, Orbits. My team, we just had like such good vibes. I don't think I've ever been on such a fun team. And I really enjoyed the games too. And that we were able to raise so much money for charity. Even afterwards, I don't know if you saw, our team stayed in VC until 5 a.m. my time.
You guys were there for
We were
ages.
just chatting and hanging out. Really?
Yeah, so he'd gone to bed. So like 1:30 before I went to bed, I went, what was it? You were in Cyan team, right? No, what team were you on? Cyan team?
Lime
team. I was like, it's 1:30 a.m. Lime team is still in that voice call. At that point, I know you said Aragon came back. At that point, it was only you, Ruby, and no, don't say it. I want to. Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, you, Ruby, and Forsey. We Choco Milk had to leave, I believe. And then Aragon ended up coming back. You mentioned, but yeah, that was kind of a crazy team.
It was, I think, the best vibes team I've ever been on. Not anything negative about other teams I've been on. I'm excluding the Heisters because those are my best friends. That doesn't count.
That doesn't count because you applied with that team. So.
Exactly. Yeah, but this team was so great. I really hope I get to hang out with them more, but they're all like, they're big boy streamers. They have their schedules, but if I'm lucky, I get to hang out with them again.
I think I did it wasn't only me doing the like teams. It was also like AJ helped with like balancing aspects. I mean, Purple team were a little underbalanced compared to what I'd want it to have been. Team Purpless, to be specific here. And obviously the sub on Pink team was a little bit stronger than I wanted it to be also. But based on so many different factors, this is just kind of how it had to all go down. But, I enjoyed the event. I was very, very happy with the teams. I think I did an amazing job. And the main goal was to kind of just get creators to bond with new creators. And although you had interacted with these creators before, I think I did an amazing job of like doing that kind of thing. But yeah, with that then, do you have anything else you wanted to say about anything in general? Or should we move on to the Twitter questions?
I think it's time for Twitter.
Sure, nothing else
Sorry,
you wanted to talk
X,
about?
of course.
Ah, yes, X. My favorite platform.
Yeah, I just know that at the end of, once we're done with the podcast, I'll go, oh, shoot, I didn't talk about this. But at the moment, I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, I mean, we didn't really touch too much on Blissful, but we could just say that you're a pro Blissful winner.
That's true. My first public event win. But yeah, I love Blissful.
Right. So the first one comes from David Whitty. What a coincidence. Oh my goodness.
No way.
What do you think makes Sands of Time, I'm guessing they were meant a bit different there. I'll just read out the question. What do you think makes Sands of Time from other dungeon crawlers and teamwork games? Do you think it is beloved by almost the entire community? That's why I think there's meant to be a different from other dungeon crawlers. But yeah.
I could argue that the question means like what makes Sands of Time, whereas like other games might break, you know? Anyway. Yeah, I think Sands of Time has like so many little things that make it exciting. Like, first of all, in the grand scheme of things, it's a puzzle to solve. That's the thing that drew me into Sands of Time. And I feel like is the reason it has such a big following, because people want to solve and to optimize. And each event, you get little snippets. You don't get to just play it over and over and over again, which means it's a puzzle that stays a puzzle for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And secondly, it has a lot of little, like, nice, satisfying things. There's mining the gold blocks. There's opening vault. All of those like little things that you're doing adds to like that feeling of satisfaction. When I'm running through a tunnel, I'm fighting mobs, I'm destroying spawners, I'm getting coins. It feels good. It feels fun. It feels nice. And I think a lot of other dungeon crawlers miss, one, the ability to transform the dungeon into something to be solved. Because if you just have a dungeon, like if we're looking at Tomb Titans, it's a dungeon, but it's not, there's no strategy behind how you're navigating the dungeon. There's a little bit of strategy in like finding the puzzles, for example, with the different colored candles, but generally navigating the dungeon, or in a square, and you're trying to move to the next square. So the dungeon isn't necessarily a maze or like something to be solved. Whereas in Sands of Time, you have the markings on the wall, you have like different strategies on how to optimally find vaults or other points of interest in the dungeon. Yeah, and I also thank you. I also think that like a lot of dungeon crawlers in general try to replicate the magic of Sands of Time, but I feel like there's so much room for dungeon crawlers to be their own thing rather than trying to replicate the feeling that Sands of Time has.
I think I guess like I'm not really too big on Sands of Time. Not like that I don't like it. I just mean I'm not as much like a fan as other people are. I think what makes Sands of Time stand out a little bit to me is kind of to parrot you a little bit here. Is that like it is just good, you know, like it's you know, you don't really have like the goal of, and this is the part where I parrot, you don't have the goal of going from like dungeon to dungeon. It's you're in this one big dungeon and you have to figure out what to do best and then when to leave, as opposed to going through the different like levels or stages, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I get you. I think also what makes Sands of Time really, really special is that it was the first of its kind to be in a format that it is in. Like, you wouldn't expect this random like dungeon crawler to be in a minigame event, but it works so well because of that.
Exactly. That's what makes it stand out and what makes it special.
Yeah.
The next one, I think I know the answer for this, but I'm going to ask anyways. The next one comes from Leo Vanker. If you could do your own little event based on your favorite game, what would you name it? What is going to be played and the purpose of it?
If you'll allow me, I kind of want to expand the question to just, if I were to make my own event, what would I do with it? I think that what a lot of people miss in creating their event is a soul. And that sounds really like floaty, I guess. But what I mean by that is, I guess, building a brand, but that feels too corporate, because what you're trying to avoid is feeling corporate. An event isn't meant to be a business opportunity. It's not meant to be a way of like marketing yourself or your group. It's meant to be a place for people to have fun. And your number one thing to focus on should be that it's a unique experience that adds value to the community rather than, being some sort of copy. And I think a lot of events put in like significant effort, but I think only very few events fully succeed. Like you mentioned Blissful just a second ago. I think Blissful is on the path to being a really great event because it has a soul and it's really like actively putting in that effort to differentiate itself, like the gemstone theme, and it uses quite a different art style. It's very involved with its community, but it's not there yet in terms of polish. But the soul is there, and that's to me me what means that I want to play in Blissful maybe more than some other events, even though maybe like the actual polish isn't there yet. So if I were to make an event, I would really focus on being able to provide something new and a new experience. In addition to, I mean, if it's up to me, I love movement games. So movement and team games would be the main focus for me. But I think for a well-rounded event, you still need to include PvP. For me, I wouldn't want to include a basic PvP game. I'd rather want to combine PvP with something else. So like where Sands of Time has PvE in its dungeon, I'd maybe want to combine PvP with doing something else. Like maybe a temple lockout kind of vibe where, you know, you're trying to capture points and trying to figure out what strategy other people are using. Probably add like an extra layer of strategy to it.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is the part of the podcast where, because I'm asking other people's questions, I don't really know how to respond, so I also don't want to build on it too much and go away from the question. I'm about to make a hot take though, and this is my hot take specifically here. You can either agree, you don't have to agree or disagree with it, I'm just putting it out there. I think what Buy-in Battle does amazingly is just the whole uniqueness of the event. Like I casted it the other day and it's an amazing event. I love it so much. The issue is, and I hope it doesn't happen, there's a possibility it goes down the bad roster route of just having the same people from every single event. Like the event rosters are so boring, and it's what I try to do different with the InsideMC event. Is like, I mean, hold on, let me go through the announcements of who was on what team just so I can completely refresh my mind here. I mean, specific names with May, not in many events. Spit Squid, not in many events. Slushy, not in many right now, probably will be in the future. Errington, barely in any events. You know, Shalom doesn't really play in many mainstream events. Dane, Boloon, Vera, you know, yourself, Ruby.
Yeah, just looking at my team, there were a lot of people that you don't regularly see in events.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was really fun.
You know, Kazagram, Rory Animate, Spelder, Generis, Jokana, Lombok, Tortil, like, you know, the majority of that team. The entire purple team, Bablu, Barbo, Animal Maze, Connor, Bendo, you don't really see them in events. And then pink team was like a typical event team. Like, that's why I tried to go for differently with the event. And obviously I'm still going to have event players playing it. Like, that's not, I don't want to just disinclude them completely. But I also loved having this roster of, wow, what? This person's playing an event. So I was very proud of it.
Love the way you're describing it. Wow, what?
Wow, about my own roster.
No, but just describing a roster as what, I feel like is a good thing, because you're like, what is happening? And that intrigues the watcher, like the viewer. Because a lot of events also, I've noticed, start to move away from being a viewer event and mainly focusing on the experience of the players. I don't exactly know why it is. Maybe it's because like their roster is giving feedback and they're not really taking into account viewers. I don't really know. But I'm noticing that a lot of events are moving away from focusing on the viewer first and are focusing on the player first. And I think that's really interesting, because I kind of like the concept of events focusing on viewers and like what is fun to look at, because that's good for the streamers too. Like, yes, it's good for them to enjoy the game they're playing. And I'm absolutely not saying that games shouldn't be fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big proponent of fun games, but I think it's a positive for streamers for their viewers to enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I know. I taking feedback into account is very, very good. And I'm not saying you're not saying that. Like, I'm agreeing with you that it's very, very good. But at the same time, I think like some events are, and I won't say specific ones, and it's not all the time because I can watch them, but sometimes it's harder to watch an event as a viewer because it can be a little bit confusing as to what's going on, but then it perfectly benefits the players. Double-edged sword.
Yeah.
The next one then comes from Cos the Penguin. We've already answered their second question, so we'll ask the first. Would adding another vault in Sands of Time be a good idea if done properly?
Well, I don't know. I think the way Sands of Time is set up is very clean. And that's MCC's strength, is you're going to find clean design all over. You have the 4 vaults, each with their own color and like their own like work. I think if we were to see more, I think it would be more likely to see a modification in how vaults function rather than a new vault altogether. Like a new method of obtaining the red or the gold key, or maybe having a whole like green vault path instead of having the vault like attached to spawn, just like as an example. But on the other hand, I've seen a private recreation of Sands which has a bunch of new vaults, which is also like really cool. And like I'm kind of envious I can't play that all of the time. But that recreation has like so many different types of vaults that all have its own quirks. Like there's one that has like key pieces, that multiple pieces that you have to find across like the dungeon, and there's so much. There's one with a code. But anyways, I think that is really great for when you're playing Sands of Time all of the time. But if you're looking at MCC as the event it is, it doesn't work to add another vault. It's still, if you're looking at the players playing Sands of Time, I'm saying this from a tester point of view, of course, but even like the best Sands of Time players are not that good. Like a lot of HMOM's advice I would disagree with.
Ooh.
So I think Sands of Time is far from a solved game. We do need new rooms. We need more newness in that regard, but I don't think we need a new vault at the moment. And if we were to need newness, I'd rather see a different way of obtaining an existing vault. It also kind of ties into the point I was making earlier of keeping things fun and clean for the viewer, because the viewer it isn't like playing Sands of Time for the 100th time. You want things to still be clear for the viewer, and you don't want to add another complicated thing that the viewer has to interact with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's already too much to start, which I know it's not that it's already too much. It's like a perfect balance that will become too much.
Yeah, Sands of Time is inherently very complicated, but I'm like building up Noxcrew, but like as the viewer that I used to be, what Noxcrew have done very well in Sands of Time is keeping it simple for being a complicated game.
Exactly.
And that's just, that's through like color coding, signposting, like all of the things that they do to make Sands of Time clearer.
I like that. The next one comes from... see, we've kind of... I don't want to ask... There's more Sands of Time questions, but I don't want to ask loads.
That was my fault.
I know. But most of it we've touched on, so I don't want to specifically ask it.
Yeah, I made like a joking tweet saying, ask me about Sands of Time, and people took it very literally, which I'm not blaming them at all. I am also very happy to answer questions that are not related to Sands of Time.
Well, this one comes from Emily Cupcake Gaming. They wanted to preface this that is a joke. When is MCC Testing opening applications again?
Well, that is actually half a question I can answer. The answer is soon, probably. But if you are listening to the podcast right now and you're interested in testing for MCC, we are always opening our applications on the forums. We generally don't put out announcements because we're looking for people who are more like dedicated and not just there for like the content creators. So the people who are interested need to keep an eye on the forums. So off the top of my head, mcchampionship.net or something. We always post about it there, and do expect applications to open in like the next few months. Who knows when?
I'm gonna become a tester and just bother you.
I would love to have you as a tester, but you still have to apply.
See, I feel like, I don't know if I'd have the time for it. I probably would actually nowadays. I'd definitely have the time to be a tester. I think I'd enjoy being a tester 100%, but also like, I know there's always that hope that you can get into the main event in the future. That's the issue, you see. Like, I'm not saying I can, but there's always that. It's the hope that kills you.
Make sure to tell everyone to never let you into the main event out of spite.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Next one is from Artemis. Sands of Time or Sands of Time?
Oh, I know that one, with the capital T or without the capital T.
Yes.
It's got to be with the capital T. Come on. Sands of Time is important enough to use capital letters.
Capital O as well. It should.
No.
Yeah, capital O as well, I think.
You're
capital
crazy.
S, capital O, capital T.
Very controversial take there, Orbits.
Oh, an even more controversial one. This one's from Vegetable. If you could try 5 types of exotic fruits, which fruits would you try?
I don't know any exotic fruits.
Okay, so just fruits then. Just fruits as a basic then. Why not?
I am a very picky eater. You're not going to see me trying any new foods. Sorry. I love me pears. They're like very mild, very sweet, very soft, very demure.
Very cutesy, very demure.
Yeah, exactly. I love pear.
The next one then from Flame, we're firing through this. What has been your favourite MCC, in brackets I, moment in the past? So MCC/MCCI moment.
Oh, I was confused by the I for a second.
Yeah, that's why I clarified it, sorry.
You're going to have to cut this out because I'm going to think for a long time.
That's fine. It's not as bad as the other thing I have to cut out, due to me.
I think it just has to be that iconic moment where, in, I think MCC 17, Rian's falling, placing that clutch TNT and blowing up a whole bunch of people. It's like even the odds of it happening and then his reaction just make it incredible. I love it so much. In general, like I love seeing hermits in MCC, like Grian, Scar, love them. Peak. When are you getting hermits on the podcast?
Ugh, believe me, I've tried. 'Cause you don't always hit the mark, and you don't always get lucky.
Yeah.
One day. The next one then comes from Nitro Tiger. Why is Nitro Tiger better than Melizsa at Sands of Time? Serious questions only.
Haha, funny. Next question, please.
The next one is from exclamation point. That's a fire name. What the heck? If you had to change one thing about Sands of Time, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, we are actually all doing all Sands of Time questions.
Yeah, no, the rest of these are probably gonna be.
Sorry, more silence. Well, I'll get there.
You're fine.
Okay, this is a niche answer. The ladders. So there's one room that has just like such a freaking long ladder. And it takes like 10 full seconds to go up or down. And it's like, come on, just make the ladder shorter. It bothers me.
Testing manager, by the way, I must say.
Technically, I could go in and just change the room, but that doesn't feel right.
So in a few weeks or months or whatever, if you see that the ladder is suddenly a different size, then this podcast made that happen. And so did you, exclamation mark. The next one is from Guffy. Thoughts of Sands of Time replacing Bow Battle as the final decider for winning MCC. I don't know why they called it Bow Battle, but yeah, we ball.
I think MCC should just be 8 games of Sands of Time. So that's my answer.
They should host one. 8 games of Sands of Time for charity.
I would love that.
The next one is from Bolty. What's your highest Sands of Time score and the highest coins your team have ever gotten?
Well, this is, for a long time, this was actually the highest ever Sands of Time score in testing, but it has been beaten recently. It is, off the top of my head, 9,600 coins on a 3x multiplier, which was with Dwitty. So yeah,
that's crazy numbers. What the heck?
I mean, it was with Cat too, so it's like an iconic team.
Testing is sweaty.
It is. For Sands of Time, testers have fully solved that game.
With that then, that brings the end of the Twitter questions. And sadly, brings the end of the podcast.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm sorry. It's been great. It's been amazing recording with you. So cutesy, so demure.
So true, so true. Very mindful.
Before I do the outro here though, I always like to give this opportunity for you to promote yourself. Where can people find you? On all platforms. Really your choice.
Yes. So you can find me under Melizsa with the first S being replaced with a Z. So it's Melizsa ZSA on Twitch and YouTube, and on Twitter and Instagram it's Melizsa Yay at the end. You will probably see me around on Island, so if you ever see me, just say hi. I always love talking to people. Yeah, keep an eye on my YouTube. You'll see more content there soon.
There we go. Well, Mel, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
And that sadly brings the end of this week's Inside MC. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe. Only too much bread. Peaces.
Wait. We need to do an outro where like you go like inside and I'll go MC. And then you'll go podcast or something.
I nearly pressed stop recording, so. This has been Inside
MC
Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that staying in. Absolutely everything. Right, be good. Bye.
Oh gosh. Bye.